Benjamin at Work, Episode 7, The Lucky 7. Welcome to the 7th episode of Benjamin at Work, Matter-Space Design. In this episode, we're going to call it the Lucky episode. And you'll see why when I get to the new business that we'll be talking about. This time is not going to be any mathematics or heavy calculations going on. So, right away, let's get started with the old business. The old business is about all of that stuff that we were doing in the previous episodes that may have caused you to wonder, well, what is all of this? Why must there be all of these gyrations going on about solving an ellipse problem? Actually, what we were doing was putting into application a type of technique known as genetic programming. And let me give you the details about that. Genetic program is essentially the process of taking a lot of different solution approaches to a problem, putting them in the same environment, under the same conditions, and evaluating them under a common criteria to find out which one works the best at solving the problem. So one of them may be faster, one of them may be more accurate, one of them may have both of these properties. And the one that meets the highest criteria and fills most of the criteria is the one that wins the contest. So genetic programming is essentially a competition among different solution approaches. And essentially what we were doing was taking this computer programming practices and using it in a form that would have been using human brains to do the work. So that's why I was inviting a lot of people to try the different approaches, because one of those approaches would have brought us the solution to the problem, an exact formula to find the perimeter of the ellipse. Now for the new business. In this case, the ideas that came to me in the period of the last week were related to something that I would have normally have put away in my files of proprietary ideas and spoken and not another word of it. That was the topic of matter-space. The reason I usually hide these ideas is because I thought that this was one of my proprietary ideas with commercial value. So just what is matter-space? Matter-space is a different way of describing nature. One of the best features of it is that it reduces the number of physical dimensions that are needed to describe the effects in nature down to one. In the Matter-Space Theorem, everything can be described in terms of space. Even matter. That's amazing, huh? Well, what's more, I developed the theorem slowly and carefully to make it agree with the findings that our existence science contains. There are points where the regular physics that we work with and the Matter-Space Theorem, they intersect in agreement and they would lead to the same results. Well, why am I sharing this? I was planning to teach it to make money. That was the primary use for it. And so telling you about this idea now actually helps me because I'm making money in the teaching domain. Education is my thing. By the way, my notebooks are actually rich with hypotheses, formulas, ideas, applications, and information about the Matter-Space Theorem. So your good luck with regards to this episode. It's just begun. Now I'm going to give you a little bit of background into where the Matter-Space Theorem came from. It turns out that this was one of my earliest scientific papers. In fact, it was the earliest, the one that I did after studying astronomy in London. And I was at that time, I would consider an amateur scientist who was destined to become an engineer. The fact that I had done this paper was tantamount to my future directions. In fact, I wanted to publish it in the Astrophysical Journal, if you would believe that. But through that experience, I learned that there was a great deal of politics and social factors involved with who can be published and who could not be published. So I put this paper away in a safe place at the Library of Congress. But in any event, to tell you more about this paper, it turns out that it was simple enough to be created and described by a person who had a limited knowledge of physics. But in the defense of myself and the document, the physics that I did know, I knew it very well. In fact, if you were to look at my education history in the context of physics, you will discover that I had a great deal of aptitude for the subject. And as well, I was an expert mathematician. I participated in math clubs and would go to math programs even though I did not have to, because my math skills were good, but I just liked doing math that much that I would show up at these places just to get a chance to do some more mathematics. So these two things made me perfectly capable of describing a simple enough theorem as the Matter-Space Theorem was. Even though I was not going to be able to publish in the Astrophysical Journal, I never stopped working on the Matter-Space Theorem, and I always did hope that someday I would get to publish it. And that day is probably drawing near. My most recent activity with respect to the Matter-Space Theorem was that I developed a class for it in Moodle, and that was just last year or so. That class is the beginning of my interest in teaching this Matter-Space Theorem to others who may find some use in it. And I would like to say that my notebooks are filled, again, with lots of ideas related to the Matter-Space Theorem. So when I go through my notebooks and share what's in them with you, sprinkle throughout are Matter-Space Theorem notes that need to be developed